So what it is in general, dynamic pricing is an option to change your prices or your average daily rates to, in the end, take the outcome of either increasing your revenue by higher prices than you would normally charge, or increasing your occupancy by setting smarter rules and or tackling certain demand gaps with lower prices at certain points so you can get the occupancy in instead of having it not booked at all. How does that work? So dynamic pricing, and I'm not specifically talking about Smoobu now, but in general, dynamic pricing tools are usually either AI powered or machine learning powered. They run on models that do an analysis on a lot of different factors. They take into account, are there seasonal effects in the area of renting out? How is the demand developing in the general area or countries you're renting out, but also the hyper-local areas? How is the listing availability? How is your listing availability? How are you booked out? But also how is the listing availability in the hyper-local area, but also more in the local areas and also in the general market trend in the general countries? Time is a factor. How far out are you booked out? Is there a certain urgency to fill availability and occupancy? What are the minimum prices and the maximum prices you would want and need to achieve in for your vacation? What are certain restrictions what are the different amenities that also your vacation rental might have? So all of these factors, and there I'll come to the amount of data points that are taken into account to, in the end, give you the best possible recommendation on what to do without you having to do that extensive analysis. Now, and is in the end the dynamic and smart prices that in the end come out to give you the opportunity to price your vacation rental nights better. What do we want to offer to you as hosts? So Smoobu Dynamic Pricing is as an underlying model that runs on data that we internally have on the Smoobu platform from our hosts that we can analyze, but also we're getting external data as well to basically have a bigger model that we can run and optimize prices on. So we have around 2 billion data points that are being analyzed all the time to achieve the best possible prices in the areas we offer, so more or less around the globe. That means there is an automated analysis of those data points to assess the best market prices. What is Smoobu Dynamic Pricing? For us, it's a simple and intuitive tool. It is very much an entry-level solution at this point. It's easy to set up and it's fast to adopt. So you don't have to opt for an external provider like any other smart pricing tool that is a different service where you have to create an account, that you have to connect. Yes, there are also several of our very well-valued partners that are in the market that you can connect with Smoobu. Smoobu Dynamic Pricing solution at this point is an entry level. It's if you want to try out those dynamic pricing solutions, it has a very base set offering to be this entry. It is not meant to compete with the bigger brand names out there that offer a lot of different options on top where you have different functionalities, more revenue management opportunities, and so on and so forth. It is, in essence, and in line with our philosophy on product development Smoobu, a simple solution.
So basically, you in Smoobu can set up a common currency in which you would like to show your prices and also send them to the portals, like for example, booking.com, Airbnb, or your own website builder. So here I will be choosing Euro for now as the common currency for all of my Smoobu listings. This particularly has to be applied in case you have rentals in countries where you have two different currencies. Then you have to end up choosing one common currency to show how you would want to list your prices. And now, as you see here, in property specific, the dropdown gives me a list of all the properties which I have in my Smoobu account. So in my case, I have Casa Berlin and then Villa Bali. Let's just choose Casa Berlin for now. And as I choose Casa Berlin, you can see here the dropdown when I click on it, it opens up the address form, and I have just entered basically an address in Berlin. And as a user, you're supposed to enter the address here. And as you can see here, I've basically already typed in the location and I have it live. And once I right click on my address, you see the coordinates. Like for example, here it reads 52.54314, 13.41401. And once you verify that this is the correct coordinates, you can go down and then enter the number of rooms and beds. So here you enter the maximum number of guests and the bathrooms and bedrooms which you have on your listing. And going down, we have the amenities. So amenities are basically features, or let's say luxuries, which you offer in your listing for your guests. It could be ranging from anything as basic as Wi-Fi or soap and toilet paper to something super luxurious like a jacuzzi or a fitness center. So basically your job is to list all the amenities you have on your listing here so that you will be able to give our system as much info as possible so that we can get you the right prices. And then finally, we have here the default prices where you will be able to set certain boundaries on what you would like your listing to be listed at, what price. So for example, minimum price is mandatory. We need this in order to calculate prices, and minimum price is the bare minimum price below which you would never price your listing. For example, here I put the number of as 20 euro. So below 20 euro, I would never want my listing to be listed and be available at in any portal for any booking. Similarly, you have the maximum price. This is more of an option because we understand that probably this threshold would make a lot of sense. So, but anyway, we offer it as an option so that you will be also able to set up a maximum price as and when you see fit. I can optimize further so that I can get the best value out of this tool and also be happy with my prices. So we have two things what we can do here. The first step, as you might remember, on the pricing calendar, you have the complete freedom to always set up the prices as and when you seem fit. Like for example, the 5th of April is just 2 days away. And I know that my listing will probably be able to go for a much higher price. So I will be able to manually update this listing as you do before on the pricing menu. And what will happen is that this particular data point, which you listed here, will be sent back to our solution. And at the same time, it will also be reflected on the pricing calendar here. And as you can see, it's updated and it's already reflecting on Smoobu, and this price will also be reflected on the connected portals you have soon enough. So we have manually changed the price. But what if, for example, tomorrow you discover that you haven't got a booking yet and you prefer using the AI-driven price, the price from our Smoobu Dynamic Pricing? What is roughly the average price you would probably want your listing to be listed at? It need not be completely based on data. It could also be a gut feeling. But then in order to help you and make life easier for you, we also have two options here. So the first option is data-driven. Data-driven basically leverages real-time market data to optimize your pricing. And here you have three options: conservative, recommended, and aggressive. And conservative is optimized for higher occupancy. Well, so we suggest that for hosts who are focused on getting higher occupancy rates. And recommended balances basically occupancy as well as profitability and revenue. And aggressive, on the other side, is basically for hosts who want to optimize for a higher revenue. So I, as a host, I can choose to be within the data-driven mode or the rule-based mode. And rule-based pricing is basically for users who want to prioritize control. So here you can set your ideal price for your listing which we can use in order to adjust for daily demand.
One would be, and that one I like, it would be helpful to understand how locally sensitive the data set is. For example, does it take into account local holidays, events, academic terms, if you're in a university town or similar, concerts, eclipses as it was in the US?
Yes, that's right. So Smoobu Dynamic Pricing, as Yannick was saying earlier, calculates the optimal pricing based on local demand. So basically, if there are any local events like concerts, conferences, any sporting events, those also holidays, it could be public holidays or just religious holidays, and also other occupancy rates which are based around your listing. Like for example, if a couple of Airbnbs next to your listing is having a good occupancy rate, that means that we can also price your listing better. So it also takes into account all of this information which affect demand in your area in order to calculate the right price.
I hope that helps. We have another question that is related from Larry. We might have to follow up on this, Larry, but maybe you know, Sanjeev, what is the definition of the size of the hyper and local areas?
Yeah, Larry, when you say hyper, I think you mean a hyper localized place, like for example, a suburb in a particular city, right? So from our model basically calculates listings based on a radius of about 5 kilometers, which are around your listing. That is the base which we have in order to calculate the prices. We see listings around a radius of 5 kilometers. What is the booking history with them? What are the prices they are charging? And also how basically the local events and the demand has been affected with those listings. As Yannick was saying earlier, we built this tool to make sure that it's simple and it's something which even new users who are joining Smoobu, like new hosts who want to just use this tool and make their lives easier by pricing it accordingly, easily, can do this. So we do not need any history of bookings from you in order to calculate the right prices, but then we also take into account the booking history. So the moment you connect Smoobu Dynamic Pricing, we grab the history of bookings which you have had in the last 1.5, 2 years in order to calculate your prices. So basically, just like any other AI model, the more data you have, the better, but it's not necessary. So we do not need a mandatory minimum volume of bookings, but the more you have, the better. But that also means that the longer you stay on Smoobu, the better prices you get.
And it obviously that is, I mean, it's a very good question. It also, that's the beauty of the dynamic pricing in the end, right? That it also takes a lot of data points around you to also give you good feedback. Is there a free trial? Yes, there is a free trial. So feel free to use it. And one last question, how often does the tool run checks and update prices?
We don't have a defined interval at which the tool goes and checks prices for your particular listing, but then we keep monitoring real time. And as and when there is a slight change in the demand supply parameters, either due to seasonality or local events, or simply because of higher booking rates for your particular listing, the prices get adjusted automatically. So this is something which happens automatically based on the algorithm and is not defined on a particular interval, like for example, every 6 hours or every day or something of that sort.
But the tool updates itself and looks at it. So if you want to follow up, I think we do have the data on how often it updates.
Yep.
Thank you very much, everyone who tuned in. Thank you for the questions. If you have any more, obviously, feel free to reach out to our team